Hi, welcome to the Pursuit of Truth. Now, there's a few bits that I wanted to record about, and I don't actually rightly remember them because I've taken so long to record these things. Sorry about that. So obviously there was Julian Assange. He's finally been let out. I haven't actually seen him talk himself. His wife was talking about him. I'm surprised that I haven't seen him. He's now in Australia. My understanding is he pleaded guilty to a charge in the USA for espionage, basically telling the truth and showing us what had gone on with other journalists and newspapers. But I guess sometimes you have to jump through hoops. If that gives him his freedom, then that's for the best. To just do that, what's it matter anyway? We all know the truth. We all know these silly little games that we all have to play. But it would have been nice to hear him. Maybe he's been gagged, and maybe that's part of the thing. Because I'm surprised I haven't seen him on the news. I thought they would show him, like Terry Waite when he was released, talking about his ordeal, talking about justifying, that he was a whistleblower and we shouldn't. And this is why people don't whistleblow. This is why people don't complain in general about the state of everything that we're living in, which is shitty. And we all know it deep down. Everyone knows that the system that we live within is poor, except those who have a really good life, who are so rich and wealthy that they don't see how the other half live, the majority, the 90% of people on this place. And even if you think yourself is great if you live in the West, think about all the people who live in the poor countries. Watch the news. Watch 90 Days, Fiance. That gives you the aspect of it. Watch all these programs that show the rest of the world and the suffering that they're in, the degradation on a place that has every resource, everything for all of us, and all the knowledge that we all know, but we don't share with each other because we've divided ourselves up. So that was that part. The other thing is obviously there was an Israel Hamas part that, where there was they didn't put much of it because they haven't put much of it on the news recently. It seems like that's dried up, um, but the suffering goes on, and the war, whatever it is, goes on. Same with, I guess, the Ukraine-Russia thing. Same with Sudan and all these other places where we humans fight other humans for what? For bits of land or for control of people, because they're so greedy and possessive of our one existence that we all have. But yeah, there was a bit where a Israeli soldier, I assume, put a Palestinian on back at the front of his truck. I don't know if he was dead or injured, and was driving around with him. And they were saying it was going to be investigated, but it just shows the mindset of that one soldier, how he devalues another human being. And I'm not trying to use that as an example of like, oh, look how bad Israel is or whatever. Look, this is soldiers generally per se, because that's what soldiers do. We mind warp them to, to do these kinds of things because we justify killing each other in the name of X, Y, or Z. But also that's society. This is not just Israel. This is, and obviously Hamas do bad things as well. Lots of, even Western countries, even the people with the white hats, lots of people do bad things. And it's just we live in an age now of the mobile phone where there's journalists everywhere. That's you and me, who can record all these things and show everyone everything, so nothing can be hidden. And it's strange you'd think that people would do things still like that when they know that someone's going to capture it. And yet, that's not obviously making excuses for it. It shouldn't happen. Well, all of these things shouldn't happen. We should have learnt by now. How long have we existed as a species? How lucky we are to get this one existence. All this luck of everything about us. If it is luck or is God's creation, whatever it is. And we're wasting it in these pursuits. And the other thing, I was watching Netflix, a Gene Wilder program about him, which was sad, to do with his first wife getting cancer, and that was a very sad part of it. Obviously, I grew up watching Gene Wilder in one of my favourite films, although it's awkward to watch now, and I haven't watched it properly all the way through, but it used to be hilarious. Harumph, 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 and I like Headley. Don't call me Headley, I'm Headley Lamar. Used to love him, and obviously the Mungo scene at the Beans. I think you've had enough. Or was it something? No, how's it go? Oh, can I have some more beans? I think you've had enough. Something like that. Hilarious. It used to crack me up. It was like, I would put that as my favourite comedy. But yeah, there are some bits in it. But then I know, obviously, it was done. Obviously, people could see it as like in Sickness and in Health type thing, Afghan. It as like, oh, is it making fun, or is it actually being topical and making fun of racists? Because it mentions things. So that's where it gets grey. We don't know. Was it done for comedy, or was it done to illustrate idiots? And therefore, this latter is say valid. But that doesn't mean it's not awkward to watch parts of it. But yeah, it was sad to see. I know the producers and other things, although I was never a big hit of the live producers and Stir Crazy with Richard Price and things, and Charlie and the Chocolate, Willy Wonka. So yeah, but it was sad the bit at the end to do with the dementia. And I think it always is sad when it's comedians, because comedians make you laugh all the time. And then when they have a death that is sad, i.e. cancer or dementia or something like that, Norman Wisdom had, I think, dementia as well. I think it's because they've made you laugh so much. When their death is something like that, it's the opposite of they can't give that, say, like Robin Williams with his mental health and stuff like that. Whereas with other stars, it doesn't have that quite the same thing, musicians and other celebrities. So maybe that's why it's poignant, because of the comedy aspect of it. But it was very sad to see him not remember. They showed a bit on, it was Letterman or who it was, when he couldn't remember the name of, I think, Stir Crazy. And it was very sad because he was so lucid in like Young Frankenstein or whatever. His trademark of like crazy, that it's not Frankenstein, it's Frankenstein, and that sort of crazy way he would like manic performance that he embodied, and then to see him sort of so frail and not being able to remember things. So it was very sad to see that, and then it made me think about mortality, and then I started thinking about these recordings, the pursuits of truth, and my wife or Michelle or Aidan or Alina, if they stumble across all these things, and at this moment when I'm speaking, and I know I've done a pursuit of truth where I did almost the same thing, which I think I called death, when I talked about this with my wife and the twins and Michelle, and my sister Karen and my dad, Robert. Obviously my mum's passed now, that's making me think about all these things as well, although I do often lament about death and sorrow and loss a lot. I don't really know why, but yeah, it was just making me think about that when I'm recording these things, I'm still alive, and in the future my kids growing up may come across this and listen to this, and they're listening to me now as I'm speaking now, alive, and yet when they're listening to it, I'm gone. And just that kind of aspect, and I guess we're maybe not the first generation, because I was thinking about what about Laurel and Hardy and people like that, where everyone's dead in the film and their family members are watching these things. How do they feel about this? I was just thinking about, from my aspect of those loved ones that I love, that they would be listening to this now, knowing that I'm even talking about that I'm alive now, and they're listening to me once I'm gone, or someone in the future listening to these things when I'm gone, hundreds of years, if they haven't removed all my content for hate crimes or whatever crimes they make up in the future on YouTube, and people can listen to these things. Maybe I can influence people in the future, like in H.G. Wells' Time Machine, where like people are ready to listen to Living as One and all the things that I've been banging on about, that my generation don't care about enough to change their ways. I may be a statue or a god. No, I don't want to be either of those things. I'm just a human being. I'm your brother and sister. But just thinking about my kids listening to these things, and then crying and thinking about, where was I when this was being recorded? Like, I think about things because obviously I've been with my sister talking about these things. when, lamenting about the past and where was I when these things, and remembering things, because I don't seem to remember a lot of my childhood things, where she's got a really good memory. And then now my twins, my Aidan, Lena, or Michelle, or Aniki, will be doing the same thing when they listen to these. Where was I? Why didn't I see these things, and all that kind of. That's what life and death. It has that loss, that feeling of sorrow, and how in this generation I can be recording something when I'm still alive, and they can listen to it for years after I've gone. They may, never come across this, or they may come across this. And if they do, I love you all, and I always loved you, and I loved every second. And you shouldn't cry about it, because we all have to go through this journey. And I was thinking the other day, when I was lying on the floor, when Aidan was trying to get him to sleep at night, and I was lying on the floor, and I was thinking, like, if someone just came in, I think I heard a noise, and it was just the floorboards or something on the stairs. If someone came in and pulled me off, and killed me or whatever, and I had to protect the kids or whatever, or I just had a heart attack and died. And as I was thinking about that, I was thinking, well, it's not happening to me, but obviously that actual scenario is happening to someone somewhere, because people die and things happen every single second of the day somewhere. So it just made me think about that why I can sort of rest easy, that no, it's just a noise of the heat expanding some wood or something somewhere else. Some, in Colombia, say, or wherever, they're being dragged by the cartel, and their children being murdered in front of them, or raped, or in a war situation that's happening, or someone, in Scotland or wherever, or Russia or South Africa or China, or all these places, having their moment, what I call the moment, when you're just about to die, the heart attack or whatever, or their last breath, as they had a long-term disease, dementia or cancer. Cancer and dementia being such cruel diseases that we should have worked out by now, but we're too busy competing with each other and keeping things to each other because we want to have patterns and make money. Yeah, I was just thinking about all of that aspect of, I can rest easy thinking about, oh, it didn't happen to me, I'm alive, but somewhere someone else has had to suffer that. How many people, why I'm recording this, someone could be listening to this in the future or now, and then this is the last thing they ever hear, and they die. Or everywhere, the 13 minutes that I've been recording this, how many people have just died? How many people who took their last breath in an ICU in the hospital? How many babies didn't make it? How a person just fell over and hit their head and died. Someone died of cancer, of HIV/AIDS, of dementia, of Alzheimer's, of all these diseases. Someone of E. coli or Ebola, or COVID-19, or got run over by a car, or a plane just crashed into a cave, or someone got missing out in Greece or somewhere. Or all these things that are happening to each of us all the time, and I keep thinking about all those things of that, how lucky we are to have this one existence, but then how unlucky that we have to go through this sorrow, through this death process, through, like we have to go through birth, you have to go through death. The only hope is that in the future there is a God, there is a heaven, there is an afterlife. But then thinking about all those things are happening, I can't stop all those people who just died while they, in the moments that I'm speaking now. And that as this keeps getting replayed, people still are dying. Everyone's dying everywhere all the time. Everyone's being born everywhere all the time. Everyone's dying all the time. It's so strange to think about that kind of thing, and then to think about it in your own terms of that, well, I'm alive at the moment, but in the future I know I'll be dead. And we're in a generation where I can record my own personal thoughts. I'm not famous or anything. I'm not a writer, like H.G. Wells or Laurel Hardy or whatever, Gene Wilder or Norman Wisdom. I'm just me, Harris Gary Maguire. Gary Maguire was born, Gary Maguire, and obviously my pseudonym of John Doyle Poems, whatever you want to call it. And yet my kids will listen to this and they'll be alive still. And they'll be listening to me crying or thinking, oh, I wish I could somehow get him back now like I did with my mum. But I can't. And even if I'm saying like, I love you and I still love you, and even though I'm gone, I'm saying now, I love you all. I love everyone. And don't cry, just it will take time before we get to that moment. And then in the future, they will then have children, and the same thing is repeated and over again. Is this a unique thing and just no chance and it's just happening, or is this a pattern of a reason? Anyway, I've said enough now. Hope I haven't depressed you all. Please put your comments, share, and take care, take it easy. God bless and peace.